Today we are going to be looking at predictors of multiple injuries in individual runners, and this is also the weekly running and training vlog where the main purpose of this video is for you to tell me about your week of running. I want to hear about your successes and I definitely want to hear about your setbacks. Now, as soon as I'm done telling you about these predictors of multiple injuries in individual runners, I am going to get into my week of training, and I had a pretty good week of training. I managed to knock out a couple of workouts, which I feel good about, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Cue the 2-second intro. So these predictors of multiple injuries in individual runners came to my attention by a study that I found that was published late last year. Now, the study was published in the Journal of Sports and Health Science, and quite appropriately, it is titled Predictors of Multiple Injuries in Individual Distance Runners, a retrospective study of 75,401 entrants in 4 annual races - SAFER. And before I get in and actually tell you about the study, that word SAFER at the end is actually an acronym, and I'm telling you right now, you would never guess what it is an acronym for. But I found it vaguely amusing. So this study is part of a series of studies called SAFER, and SAFER stands for Strategies to Reduce Adverse Medical Events for the Exerciser. Come on, tell me, if you had a million guesses, would you ever have come up with that? But silly acronyms aside, this study is pretty good. And by the title, you already know that we looked at 75,401 participants, so that's a pretty good sample size. And it was a retrospective study, so the researchers actually looked back at information that had previously been gathered, and this information had been gathered from the Two Oceans half marathon and ultramarathon. The ultramarathon was a 56-kilometer event, and they looked at 4 years between 2015 and 2019. Now, in those 4 years, there were 106,000 participants in those races, but the 75,401 participants, those are the ones that gave their approval to have their data used for scientific research. So the strength of this study is seen in it focusing on a very large event over 4 consecutive years. With that many people running, there's going to be a lot of people that run multiple times. So the researchers are going to be able to look and compare at the same runners through the years. But also, before each event, each participant is required to fill out a compulsory pre-race medical screening questionnaire, and that is the data that the researchers looked at in order to come to their conclusions about multiple injuries and the contributing factors that lead to those multiple injuries. So let me just give you a heads up. I want you to listen to the criteria which leads to multiple injuries, and then, if you feel comfortable, I want you to leave me a comment letting me know how many of the criteria you meet. And spoiler, I meet several. So each participant in their pre-medical screening survey was asked to self-report injuries in the year before the race. Now, there was a maximum of 3 injuries allowed to be recorded per runner per year. So if one runner was extremely injury prone and they reported 3 injuries in the first year, and then the second, third, and fourth, there is a maximum injury rate of 12 injuries being reported per runner. Of course, that is outlandish to think that that would actually happen to more than a couple people, but that's the maximum. That's the ceiling. So the researchers examined 4 risk factors for multiple injury rates, and that includes demographics, training load, a history of chronic injuries, and allergies. Oh, and by the way, I will link to this study in the show notes below. The full article is available for you to read, and the best part is it's only 9 pages, so it's a very quick and easy read if you wanted to pour into the data a little more. So the researchers found that 9.2% of runners reported an injury in the previous year, and 0.04% of the participants were in the multiple injury category. And multiple injuries is just defined as more than 1 injury in a year. So 0.04 doesn't sound like a huge number, but with this bigger sample size, it actually turns out to be around 3,000 runners. First of all, I just want to give a brief descriptor of the risk factors that the researchers looked at. The first is demographics, and that included sex, age, and which race they actually entered, whether it was the half marathon or the 56-kilometer ultramarathon. The training load related variables included the years of being a recreational runner, the frequency of training or racing every week, the weekly training distance, the average self-reported training speed, and experience in the Two Oceans events. So the amount of time that a runner has spent being a recreational runner was separated into 3 groups. We have the group that has been a recreational runner less than 10 years, a group that has been running between 10 and 20 years, and then the third group who have been running over 20 years. The risk factors that include a history of chronic disease include cardiovascular disease, which obviously includes actual cardiovascular disease, but also includes cardiovascular disease symptoms and cardiovascular disease risk factors. And then there was a huge list of other chronic diseases that include respiratory, GI disease, nervous system, psychiatric, kidney, bladder issues, immune system, cancer. The list of chronic diseases are pretty long. And it turns out that 19% of the participants that agreed to participate in the study actually reported a chronic disease. And then, of course, the 4th risk factor for multiple injuries was allergies. I don't know how much explanation that actually needs. So let's talk about the results. Let's talk about the findings, because I think that is why you've been sitting through me babbling about explaining the study up until now, because you want to know, hey, am I I at risk? How many risk factors do I have that are going to predispose me? I don't know, probably isn't the right word, but predispose me to multiple injuries. So here we go. I've already said one of them, and that was the 0.04% of athletes had multiple injuries. So if we look at it from a population standpoint, 0.04, pretty good odds. However, the study did find some predictive risk factors which make a runner more likely to get multiple injuries, which, as I've already said, is more than one injury a year. The first one is age. The study found that runners over 40 are more likely to have multiple injuries than younger runners. I'm not sure if that's surprising or not. The second is running history. The study found that recreational runners that have been running for more than 20 years are more likely to have multiple injuries per year. And this last one is not at all surprising. The study found that the participants in the ultramarathon are more likely to have multiple injuries a year than those participants who ran the half marathon. And I say that's not surprising because to run an ultramarathon, your training load is generally going to be a bit higher than running a half marathon. And the last two results that were found they're novel. They're a little less expected, at least to me. So the study found that runners with a history of chronic diseases are more likely to have multiple injuries per year. And most surprising to me, the study found that runners with allergies are more likely to have multiple injuries per year than runners that don't have allergies. So I've been through most of my life thinking I don't have allergies, but you know what, in the last couple of years, at certain times of the year, it turns out that when I take a snort of Flonase before I go out for my run, everything is just a lot better. So it turns out that I actually meet 3 of the 4 criteria for the possibility or the increased possibility of getting multiple injuries a year. Well, actually, I was gonna say 4, but the 3 that I think I qualify for, I'm over 40. I haven't been running over 20 years. I'm getting up to that point, but it's only been about 15 or 16 years that I've been running recreationally. As far as chronic disease, I don't think I meet any of that criteria. And allergies, I like to say I don't have allergies, but the Flonase that I take tells a different story. So I want to hear from you. How many of those risk factors apply to you? Let me know in the comments. Well, it turns out I had a pretty good week, and I know that you're probably tired of hearing me say that. It seems like most weeks I have a pretty good week of running. I mean, even when it's bad, it's really pretty good. But Monday started off very good with a nice and easy 7.5 miles, just keeping my heart rate low, just getting out there to log those miles. Because on Tuesday was my interval day, so I had to get ready for a workout. And Tuesday's workout was a warm-up followed by 400, 800, 1200, 1600, 1200, 800, 400 with 400 meters in between. And you can see right now on your screen when I put up these intervals, you can see how the speed generally got faster as I went through the workout. And that is generally a product of just warming up and becoming more comfortable on the run as time goes on. Wednesday was another easy day. I ran 11.2 miles. Again, it was nice and easy. I knew that I had another workout coming on Thursday, so I just kept things nice and chill. Thursday was a tempo day, and I gotta say, I was a little, is anxious the right word? Maybe. I was a little stressed about doing this tempo run, mainly because I just didn't feel like it. But as I've become accustomed to doing, I kind of sound like a broken record. Doesn't matter if you're not feeling motivated to do a workout. Got to have the discipline to do the workout. So I'm happy to say, because that whole spiel about having discipline would mean nothing if I didn't do my workout, I did my workout. I warmed up for a couple miles, knocked out 7 miles at tempo, and then did 1.5 miles to cool down. And although it was a bit of a slog, it felt really good. And I got to take those benefits of feeling good throughout the rest of the day. So after my last hard workout of the week, I've generally only got easy running until my next hard workout, which is the next Tuesday. Now, on weekends that I don't work, I would throw in a long run, but I'm working this weekend, so no long run for me. On Friday, I knocked out 7.5 miles, super easy, and the temperatures have been getting very chilly here in Florida, so I've been really enjoying getting out there without being soaked with sweat. On Saturday, I did 7.6 miles, very easy, just getting out there and enjoying my time on my feet. And then I wrapped up the week on Sunday with 7.7 miles. Now I did head over to the mall and I ran up and down the car park just to get a little elevation and also to keep myself warm because Sunday was very cold here. I'm not joking when I say cold. It got down to, at least the feels like temperature was around 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 0 Celsius. So I did pull the tights out for that run. So yeah, you already know, I had a great week. Wrapped it up with 60.3 miles, which is about 97 kilometers. And I did spend some time on the Peloton. Let's see, churned out just under 116 miles, which is about 186 kilometers. So pretty happy with how this week went. Guys, don't forget to tell me about your week right in the comments. Successes, setbacks, I want to hear it all. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.